I wonder if we will make robots so much like men and men so much like robots that eventually we'll lose the distinction altogether and have a combined culture. This may be the best after all. Maybe humanity itself will die out as humanity and sort of melt into this machine culture.
And with that, I welcome you to the complex and fascinating and definitely multifaceted topic of transhumanism, which is also known as post-humanism, sometimes futurism, and often goes under the simple symbol of H with a plus sign next to it. So transcending humanity, transforming humanity to become post-human, and humanity plus, so humanity and then some. Now, this is really a broad term under which are a lot of different concepts such as humans merging with technology, human enhancements therefrom, up and downloading the contents of the human brain into machines, genetic manipulation, ectogenesis, which is artificial wombs, nanotechnology, biotechnological implants, omni-surveillance, seeking immortality through life extension, technotherapies, cloning, etc., etc., etc. Now, the term transhumanism itself, within this context, was coined by Julian Huxley in his 1957 book, In New Bottles for New Wine, where he writes, "I believe in transhumanism. Once there are enough people who can truly say that, the human species will be on the threshold of a new kind of existence as different from ours as ours is from the Peking man. It will at last be consciously fulfilling its real destiny." So you can see from the outset that transhumanism was correlated with evolution. Now, Julian was Aldous Huxley's brother, and it was Aldous who wrote Brave New World. So I want you to listen to a little clip from Brave New World to see what he had to say about technology's overuse and how it affects our relationship with God.
Ladies and gentlemen, the distinguished author, Mr. Aldous Huxley.
Brave New World is a fantastic parable about the dehumanization of human beings.
So you don't much like civilization, Mr. Sedley?
No, I don't.
And yet people are happy. They get what they want, and they never want what they can't get. They're well off, they're safe, they're never ill, they're not afraid of death, they're blissfully ignorant of passion and old age, they're plagued with no mother or father, they've got no wives or children to feel strongly about, they're so conditioned that they practically can't help behaving as they ought to behave.
They call this happiness, working at an embryo assembly line, manufacturing babies.
Science, my boy. Besides, they like it.
One more question.
Of course.
Where is God in this scheme of yours?
It's a subject that has always had a great interest for me. You've never read this, of course, the Holy Bible, New and Old Testaments. I've got quite a few revolting old books like that here.
But if you know about God, why don't you tell the people?
This book is old. It's about God hundreds of years ago, not God now.
But God doesn't change.
Men do, though. No, my friend, call it the fault of civilization. God isn't compatible with machinery, scientific medicine, and universal happiness.
But when you're alone, it's natural to believe in God. When you're quite alone in the night, thinking about death.
But people are never alone now. We make them hate solitude, and we arrange their lives so that it's almost impossible for them ever to have it. No solitude, no God. So many of the natural impulses are allowed free play that there really aren't any temptations to resist. Anybody can be virtuous now.
So now I want you to listen to a statement by Louis C.K., who is an atheist, and I think every single Christian parent needs to quote this man to their children. You'll see why.
No, I think these things are toxic. I don't, especially for kids. It's just this thing. It's bad, and they don't look at people when they talk to them, and they don't build the empathy. You know, kids are mean, and it's because they're trying it out. They look at a kid and they go, "You're fat," and then they see the kid's face scrunch up, and they go, "Ooh, that doesn't feel good to make a person do that." Right. But they got to start with doing the mean thing. But when they write "you're fat," then they just go, that was fun. I like it. Tasted good. Yeah, exactly. You need. The thing is, you need to build an ability to just be yourself and not be doing something. That's what the phones are taking away. Yes. Is the ability to just sit there, like this. That's being a person, right? Yes. No one can. You gotta check, because underneath everything in your life, there's that thing, that empty, forever empty. You know what I'm talking about? Yes. Yes, I know what you're talking about. Knowledge that it's all for nothing and you're alone. You know, it's down there. And sometimes when things clear away, you're not watching it, and you're in your car, and you start going, "Oh no, here it comes." That I'm alone, like it starts to visit on you. You know, just the sadness. Yes. Life is tremendously sad just by, being in it. And so you're driving, and then you go, that's why we text and drive. I look around, pretty much 100% of people driving are texting. Yes. And they're killing, everybody's murdering each other with their cars. Yes. But people are willing to risk taking a life and ruining their own because they don't want to be alone for a second, because it's so hard. I was in my car one time, it made me really sad. Yeah. And I go, okay, I'm getting sad. I gotta get the phone and write hi to like 50 people. I started to get that sad feeling. I was reaching for the phone, and I said, you know what, don't. Just be sad. Just let the sadness stand in the way of it and let it hit you like a truck. And I let it come, and I just started to feel, oh my God. And I pulled over, and I just cried. I cried so much. And it was beautiful. It was like this beautiful, it's just this, sadness is poetic. You're lucky to live sad moments. And then I had happy feelings because when you let yourself feel sad, your body has like antibodies. It has happiness that comes rushing in to meet the sadness. So I was grateful to feel sad, and then I met it with true, profound happiness. It was such a trip, and the thing is, because we don't want that first bit of sad, we push it away with like a little phone thirst. You never feel completely sad or completely happy. You just feel kind of satisfied with your product. Yes. And then you die.
So what we're talking about is transitions from basic computing devices to robots, to androids, which are anthropomorphic robots, right? A robot that looks like a human being, to cyborgs, which is a human being that has technologies implanted into them. Now, I mentioned the context of the word transhumanism because in general terms, we're all transhumanist, all of us Bible believers. Of course, we expect to transcend humanity and take on our glorified or resurrected bodies, right? Also, we all believe in life extension, right? Watch this. See, we all inhaled. That proves you're trying to extend your life right there. Okay, and we all believe in enhancements. The first time someone slipped a sandal on their foot, that was a human enhancement, right? I have gold and metal in my teeth, right? There's artificial hips and hearts and all kinds of things. So, the issue is to keep in mind that a lot of the leaders and a lot of people involved in transhumanism are involved in some really great works. For instance, working with technology to help the hearing impaired, the speech impaired, the sight impaired, and really, really good stuff, being high-tech stuff coming out of modern science. So the issue becomes, how far are you willing to take it? And at this point, I would say you personally, and be careful not to speak for somebody else, because are you a quadriplegic? Do you have a child with a brain damage to the point where they'll never have a normal existence? Did you lose limbs as a soldier? Right? So don't say, well, I've decided this, that pertains to you as well. I think the problem is that these things become a catch-22, so that, yes, it will be those more vulnerable people who will be first in line. And the issue with the technology is there's always that benevolent front, but who knows who's behind the curtain. And I was reminded of J.P. Morgan, who stated that a man always has two reasons for doing anything: a good reason and the real reason. And don't play down the incredible pressure that can come along with this concept of high tech benefiting humanity.
If our children can be more intelligent and healthier and live longer lives through altering our genetics, why would we not want to do it? I mean, imagine if other children could live for 2 centuries, and if you could only live for 80 years because your parents believed that it was improper to tamper with human genetics. You would not be pleased with that decision. The same thing if your IQ were a normal IQ and all of your classmates were much, much brighter because there had been sort of some biological or genetic manipulation that was possible. You'd feel very angry about this.
In the short term, we've got possibilities of helping an awful lot of people who have problems. They're paralyzed, they have multiple sclerosis, motor neuron disease, maybe they're blind. But technology, by linking their nervous system, their brain, to a computer, can help. If in the paralyzed person's case, maybe not necessarily to bring back movement, but to allow them to control technology around them. In the long term, well, it's very exciting, not just helping individuals that have problems, but more enhancing all of us, upgrading humans, giving ourselves mental abilities that we don't have. Extra memory, extra math are just the obvious ones. Better means of communication directly by thinking to other people, and extra sensory input. I would love to be able to sense the world in infrared or ultraviolet. At the moment, as a human, I can't, but as a cyborg, I will be able to. I think now we look at the body in a human sense and a machine sense being integrated, becoming one, so technology does become a necessary part of evolution. In some ways, perhaps it has affected how we've evolved anyway, in a small way over the last 200 or 300 years. Now it will really move things on. So as a technologically oriented person, somebody involved with technology, it does start to make you quite powerful when it comes to the type of circuitry that you can design, the way that you can drive the technology forward, because effectively it's evolving humanity into cyborgs. You are directly affecting evolution.
Now, another bit of advice is, I was having this kind of discussion with a friend of mine, and at a certain point he says, well, God will never let it go that far. Be careful, because that far is by necessity arbitrary. So don't just invent an arbitrary point and speak for God, because then what happens if it does go beyond that point? Is it going to affect your relationship with God? So just advice to not set this sort of line in the sand. Now, for all that which follows, I guess I have to do a kind of qualifying statement. Not all transhumanists hold to what I'll be talking about tonight. Some of them would disagree. Some of them may not even realize the roots of their movements. So that's just to get that out of the way. And I thought, well, someone could present you an entire lecture, for example, just on the technology behind transhumanism. And someone could do an entire lecture just on the transhumanists. Who are they? What's their background? What are they working on? But I thought, well, let's get into their worldview and let's look at the roots of transhumanism in theology and in the occult, which is a subset of theology, and in evolution, and then lastly, see how those roots are branching out through pop culture and its influences. So that way, instead of giving you a bunch of factoids about transhumanism, I was hoping to present to you the worldview. So now, henceforth, anything you hear about transhumanism, you'll be able to discern it and dissect it a lot better and read between the lines. So now, with such a huge topic, I thought to myself, how do I even introduce the topic and make it accessible? So I thought of a parochial example to start with, something geographically